Hello, ladies and gentlemen, this is KairoS. We have a major patch coming up in Naval Action, and I've been reading through these notes, and I thought, why not make a quick video about it? Let's actually do a quick commentary on what's happening to the game, and hopefully you guys will read along and get a little bit of information on how the game might be changing going forward. If you're a new player, this is relevant information. If you're an old hand, this is even more relevant because there are going to be significant changes to the way Naval Action performs going forward, and I suspect more changes will be coming along in the near future. Some of these are positive changes, I feel, and some of them I have my concerns about, but we'll discuss that as we go in. So leave a comment below if you're interested in how this is affecting the gameplay. Let me know if you have any personal experiences so far. As of recording this video, the patch hasn't actually dropped quite yet, I don't believe, but it should be happening, I believe, tomorrow or the next day. So let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of this patch, and we can start with just the introduction here. We'll read through all of this together and comment as we go. Captains. Major patch will be deployed on Monday, 27th of June, which is tomorrow as of recording this video. We wanted to deploy the patch this week, but unfortunately it got delayed due to server problems. Okay, major change in design methods. Gameplay is king. All current improvements come from the major change in our design philosophy. Gameplay is king. Realism will be kept if it supports gameplay. Every item, every module, and ship should have a reason to be used. If an item does not have any reason to be used, it should be changed or improved or dropped. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm a little bit concerned by this new philosophy. I worry that this signifies that as the devs move the game towards a more, shall we say, casual audience, as they move towards free-to-play, they're going to change Naval Action to be more of a World of Warships kind of arcadey game. Historically, Naval Action has always been a very realistic, very unforgiving, and very, I suppose, authentic in many ways multiplayer game. Unusual in that regard because most, well, let's just be honest, most MMORPGs aren't exactly focused on realism. It is good that they're considering balancing the game and so on, but I do worry we're going to lose some of that realism going forward, and we might move towards a more arcadey World of Warships style of gameplay. Patch content. Acceleration, wind, and speed control. So this is where we get into the meat and potatoes of the actual patch itself. Acceleration has been completely revamped. Acceleration now depends on wind power in sails. You will accelerate slower if you have less wind and faster if you have full wind power in all sails. Hull now influences deceleration and resistance based on speed much better, which provides a more natural and realistic sailing feeling. This also means that you have to push your ship further when tacking if you want to gain speed faster. All ships' passport speed can be exceeded if you use manual sails and add more wind to sails. Some ships are affected by more by this than others. So I think this is actually a pretty positive change, believe it or not. I'm actually pretty happy with this. What this seems to mean is it will reward you for being more skilled with manual sailing. This last point here is particularly relevant, I think. So let's say you have a ship that can go, theoretically on paper, 14 knots. What this seems to be implying is you can actually get that a little bit faster, let's say maybe 14.2 knots, just for an example, if you're really good at managing your sails and catching the wind. I think that's a very positive change because it will reward skill over just having a really fast or decent ship build. So this is, I think, a positive change, and it does reflect reality. You think of history. Take the Endymion, for example, which was faster than expected. I believe their crews actually managed to get her faster than she was theoretically able to go on paper, if I recall my history correctly. So this is, I think, a positive change, and this actually does reflect the reality of sailing, if you have a very skilled crew, yeah, you're going to get that ship faster than you might expect. So I think that's a positive change, more or less. We'll see how that's implemented going forward. So let's scroll down here and we see chain and demasting changes. Cannonball will no longer damage masts for clear gameplay difference. Now that's very interesting. So what that looks like is now we're going to have to switch to chain to dismast our or demast our opponents. Very interesting. Cannonball can be used for hull and structure. Chain will be used for masts and sails. I'm actually not against that idea. Not necessarily the most realistic, but I do believe that will work. I think that's going to make for interesting gameplay. You'll instantly be able to tell when you see someone switch to chain, you know what they're going to do. You know that they're going to try and demast you or shred your sails. I think that's going to actually really improve gameplay, even though it might not necessarily be the most historically accurate thing on Earth. Chain shot damage is no longer limited by distance and will damage rig as far as your chain shot can reach. Fair enough. Chain shot always damages masts at any distance for clear, predictable demasting gameplay. Battle sails and lower sail combinations reduce incoming mast damage by 50%. I really like that, actually. I really like that. Particularly the battle sails. That's going to make for some very interesting tactical decisions in game. If you want to escape and get away, well, you're going to have to time that full sails pretty carefully, because otherwise you might get yourself demasted. I think that's always been a thing in the game, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure about the damage, but I certainly have noticed that my masts tend to fall more easily if I have my sails set to full. So let me know in the comments if you think that's entirely new or whether that's just a variation on something they already had implemented in the game. Chain will have very low damage to sails, representing their ability to catch wind even if torn, which I do also like. That's true. Sails do tend to work even if they're torn. The real danger of chain shot is the damage that they do to the rigging and to the men in the rigging. So I like that change as well. Chain will now entangle the rig, represented by rigging shock, if you hit the rig right away, hitting as many sails as possible. That's really just the same as it's always been, I think. Maybe it just means that it'll be a bit easier to get rigging shock now going forward, which is also a good thing, I think. Rigging shock will stop yard and sails from working for 1 minute and will slow you down for a fixed percentage of speed loss. Rigging shock will provide predictable and standard speed debuff, allowing you to keep enough speed to be effective in combat even if multiple gankers are shooting at you. And again, I think that that's fine. That doesn't sound particularly different from how the game's always played, to be honest, but it's nice to have confirmation that that's what they're focusing on. And broadly speaking, I would say I'm extremely happy with the way they've changed that chain demasting and chain and demasting, I should say. And I think that's going to actually really improve the PvP scene. Mast thickness bonuses and modules will still work, but are not as effective as before. Refit your ships for HP, for mast HP for best results, and I think we should probably take their word for that. So keep that in mind when you're building your ships in the next few months. Now we get to structural leaks and speed. Artificial low structure speed debuffs have been removed. I'm not sure how I feel about that. It makes sense that a ship with poor structure wouldn't perform as well, I suppose. I don't know about that. We'll see how that affects the gameplay going forward. I worry that will mean that slower ships will get slower and faster ships will get faster, but I'm not entirely sure what they mean by this sentence here, so we'll have to see how we'll have to see how that changes things going forward. Receiving water into hull increases your deceleration and thus reduces speed. Losing structure increases structural leaks as before. Okay, I get that now. That seems fine. I think that's going to be okay. That seems pretty much the same as it's always been to me. You can reduce incoming water by slowing down. Now that I really like. if you know anything about how ships sink, there's a reason why captains stop the engines as soon as they think that they have a leak. The faster you're going, the faster the water's going to come in. There's no way you're going to be moving while you have a hole in your vessel. You want to be slowing down so you can deal with that damage as quickly as possible. That is a really positive change. Very realistic, and I like that idea a lot. At 0 speed, incoming water is reduced by 50%, even if you are at 0 structure. Fantastic. I'm really for that. I think that's an entirely positive thing. Increased speed to max will double incoming water. So I can say that I'm impressed with that structural leaks and speed. I'm looking forward to actually testing that in the game. Penetration and thickness, we need to get this video moving. I don't want to bore you guys too much. All gun penetration tables are reworked for gameplay. Choice of gun barrel length and gun type will become more important and defined even better than in 2015, 2016. I wasn't playing the game at that time, so anyone who has experience of the game back then, you can let me know exactly what they mean by that. Angles will predictably work for the gun typical range. Angles will predictably work for the gun typical range. I suppose they mean that they're making the guns a little bit more reliable, less variability in the shot. I guess we'll find out. For example, if medium gun penetrates at 50 degrees at 100 meters, it will penetrate the same way at a distance from 0 to... Oh, I see. Right. That seems fine. From 0 to 750 meters is typical gun range. So, okay, it looks like they're just making the guns a little bit more reliable. So what you see on paper is what you get as far as penetration goes. And, you know, I like a little bit of variability in my gameplay, but I suppose this does make it a little bit easier to sort of judge distance and so on. You know when you're going to pen, you know when you're not. And you'll be able to feel, from experience, you'll be able to feel, okay, can I pen this ship or not? That seems fine to me. It really does seem fine. Long guns. Okay, so we got gun types here. Long guns for best distance above 750 meters. Good at distances below 750 meters. Guns, long, Navy, Bloomfield, etc. Okay. And that you can read that yourself. I'm not going to go through that. That's just sort of a quick summary of what the guns do. Damage and time to sink. Dependence of cannonball deflection on your ship speed has been removed due to inability to use this feature in combat effectively and predictably. Okay, well, I guess that's a gameplay issue for the devs trying to get that to balance out and trying to get that to be predictable in the game. I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. Cannonball deflection on your speed. I guess that makes sense if you're trying to sort of streamline things and make things a little bit easier to implement, but I'm usually a fan of adding more realism, not taking it away. And we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I suppose it was giving them trouble on some level, so it's gone. Just be aware of that. All reload speeds have been lowered. I'm not a fan of that. I quite like the idea of having to time your volleys more carefully. Realistically, I think very skilled crews could fire a couple of volleys a minute with a 12-pounder, for example. So I'm worried, again, that this will lead to a more arcadey, you know, Texan style shootout. You know, we don't want cowboys on ships. We want realistic gunnery. Thank you very much. So it depends on how much they have lowered the reload speeds, but I am concerned about that. Planking hit points for ships have been lowered. Base 900 for cutter, 1000 for ocean. Okay. Concerned about that. That again seems to suggest that they want to sort of quicken the battles up. They want ships to be essentially dealt with more quickly. They want faster, snappier combat, and to reflect that they've sort of lowered the hit points of a lot of these ships. Not a fan of that particularly. Although in reality, a couple of volleys, good volleys, will usually end your battle. You know, you can't take that many broadsides in real life and still sail. It's pretty devastating to be shot by 12-pounder cannon. So, again, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll see how much that affects gameplay going forward. Damage and time to sink have been reworked closer to old sea trials levels and tuned for average 8 broadsides to destroy all planking. Okay. Well, again, I'm quite happy with the long, slow, drawn-out battles that we've always enjoyed. But let me know what you think. This seems to be making things a little bit similar to how they used to be. And again, I haven't played back in those days, so let me know. Do you think it was better or worse back in those days? Turning and changing broadsides is now absolutely required to increase damage that you deal to enemies. Well, that's good if you're a solo player, but not so good if you like line battles, I suppose. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm, I suppose, curious to see how that's implemented, but I do have my concerns as far as the damage and time to sink goes. Ship differences, interceptor classes, and fast battleships, higher speeds. This is interesting. 1 to 2 knots higher, good turning at high speed, horrible turning at lower speeds, use of yards absolutely required for maneuvering in combat. I like that idea. So certain ships are good for chasing things down, but not very maneuverable. That's going to change the way people choose their builds, I suppose. That's going to be interesting. Combat classes, lower speed, great turning at low speeds, good turning at high speeds, use of yards, further improves maneuvering combat ability. All right, well, we'll see how that goes. I'm conscious of time here. I'm going to move this forward a little bit, but we'll see how that actually is implemented from ship to ship. Other changes. Now, this is something we need to sort of scroll down a bit. This is not very clear, so I'm just going to glean over this very quickly. Clan port investments. All current investments, which can be compensated, will be compensated. Refunds will be sent to clan warehouse of the current clan owner of the port, and you can read that there yourself. So what's going to happen, it seems here, is they're going to remove the clan port bonuses entirely from the game. Now, what that actually means, it's not very clear from this going forward, but they're going to try and compensate clans, which is good. But essentially all of those times where you'd start the game up and you'd be thinking, okay, I want to get into into crafting. I better make friends with some, you know, trading clans and crafting clans and get to know the people who are interested in the economy of the game. That's not going to be a feature so much anymore as of tomorrow, I suppose, when these patch notes actually become live in the game. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I think it did encourage people to be more sociable with their gameplay. If you wanted to be a crafter, you had to reach out to people who were already connected with that sort of world. And if you wanted the best port bonuses, you had to join a clan which had good port bonuses. Now, on the flip side of that, that's very good for solo players. It doesn't matter now. You can do your own thing and you don't need to worry about clan politics. So it's both a positive and a negative as far as I'm concerned. If you want more details on that, you actually have to scroll down a little bit here somewhere. There's actually a bit more information. Here we go. We had a little bit more information on the on that before when they first announced this. So if you go down here, you can read all of these. This is on Steam, obviously. And we have a little bit more information on clan port investments here. I'm not going to read that right now, but pause the video and have a read of that if you're interested. And we shall see how this is going forward. We'll just finish up here, these notes on the clan changes. Individual shipbuilding skills and investments in industry. New seasonal rewards. Reward has been added. Naval Service Medal, that's cool. New ability has been added. Ability to invest seasonal medals to improve your industrial knowledge. Oh, that's cool. Adding new types of buildings and building knowledge. Allowing building better ships. Okay, cool. That's cool. I'm all for anything that will encourage you to get into crafting. That's fantastic. New features are always welcome in that regard. This feature is added in test mode and will be wiped 1 to 2 times before final release. Okay, so let's be conscious of that. If you're getting into crafting right now, things are going to be changed up a lot. I'm a crafter on my main, so that's going to affect me a lot. All investments of seasonal medals to improve shipbuilding or investments will be refunded with when reset. Good. That's good. That's fine. I'm happy with them experimenting with that. Shipbuilding capabilities will work in any port where you can build a shipyard. The increased chance for more slots in capturable ports still remains. That's interesting. Okay. And the last line here, industrial capabilities will work in any port where you can build buildings. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure what they mean by all this, but it looks like they're going to really change the way the crafting has always worked. And it is going to be easier, I think, for solo players to get into crafting now. You're not going to have to worry about clan politics. So I've been babbling on about this a little bit too long, I think. Hopefully this has not been too dull for you guys, but I just wanted to show you very quickly what was going on in the world of naval action. And let me know in the comments below what you think about the changes. If you have more experience of the game as it was back in 2016 and so on, let me know how this seems and whether this is something to be concerned about or something to be excited about. I'm interested to see where they take this, although I am concerned about their new design philosophy here. We shall see how we go in the future. This has been KairoS. Thank you all very much for viewing.